Hey, what's up, friends? Chairing a meeting is just one of those duties that just gets given to you at some point in your career, either because you're promoted or the normal chair is absent. You're not trained on how to do it, just expected to be naturally good at it, but most people aren't. At least, I wasn't. My first experience in chairing a formal meeting was back in 2014. I'd just been promoted to a divisional finance director, and I was due to attend this meeting for the first time. So I was already nervous, I was absolutely green to the gills, not experienced at all. But then, 2 minutes before the meeting, the managing director popped his head round the door and said, "Hey Patrick, I can't make it. Do you mind chairing the meeting?" I gulped and said, "Yes." I got through the opening bits relatively easily and got to the first substantive item, an investment proposal I knew was going to be controversial and stimulate a lively debate. I asked the project recommender to give a brief introduction to the paper so we could get into the discussion. He started off promisingly and said, "Well, I'll take the paper as read, but just highlight a few bits." However, he then started to read out the paper, pretty much word for word. 5 minutes passed of this guy reading out the paper. I started to sweat. I knew as chair I should do something, but I didn't know what or how to do it. This guy kept on reading out a paper everyone else had already read. 10 minutes in, he's still going. My heart's racing now, and he's only halfway through the paper. I looked around the room, and everyone else was getting impatient too. This was supposed to be a 20-minute paper. We've already used half the time and not even got into the discussion. Surely you would get the hint and shut up soon. No, of course not. 15 minutes in, he's still in full flow. Luckily, someone else cracked first and said, "Patrick, do you think we should get to the discussion?" I breathed a sigh of relief. Whew. Yes, let's turn to questions. I thought at this point the meeting would go better. However, it actually got worse. It was an absolute feeling frenzy. No wonder this poor chap had drone on so long. He was trying to postpone the inevitable mauling. People were jumping in, talking over each other, firing questions, jumping point to point. The questions weren't particularly constructive. I had no control as chair. I was a spectator. The rest of the meeting is a blur. I've no idea how we captured any actions or moved anything forward. A total car crash. Over the past 9 years, hopefully I've got a bit better at chairing meetings. However, it's such an important skill, and it's not one organisations seem to teach. So today I'm going to share some of the lessons I've learned over the past 9 years that hopefully made me a more effective chair of meetings. The most important thing to run an effective meeting is for you to know, and the attendees to know, the purpose of that meeting. What's the objective? Ideally, a meeting will only have a single objective, a single clear purpose which you can focus on, make sure you clearly complete, and then follow up on afterwards. It's always better to have fewer items and to make sure you get them done well and complete them than having too many items rushing through or for the meeting overrunning. No one thanks you for a meeting overruns, but no one minds if a meeting finishes slightly early. Structuring the agenda is also important. Don't leave the really tricky, hard decisions right until the end. But it's also probably not best to have them right up front. If you can have a simpler item first to build some momentum, get people comfortable, and then move on to the tricky item, you can often find that's the most successful approach. There are 4 reasons to have a meeting. Firstly, to communicate information and to get real-time feedback. If you don't need that, don't have a meeting. Secondly, to make a decision, particularly complex decisions where you need people's input. Thirdly, for coordination. And fourthly, for that creative problem solving. These meetings, because they have different purposes, have some different things you need to take into account to make those meetings effective. However, there's some general principles that apply to all meetings. You need to make sure you have the right attendees in the room. Only those people that you need to contribute to the meeting. The fewer people in the meeting, the more effective it's likely to be. You as chair need to make sure all those attendees feel welcome, comfortable, and able to contribute. If they're not able to contribute, there's no point having them in the meeting. If it's an information sharing meeting or a decision making meeting, even those objectives are slightly different. The techniques you need are the same. Firstly, you need to make sure you send out the required information ahead of the meeting. Either the information you want to share and get feedback on, or details of the decision that you want people's input in before it's made. That will give time for the participants to read and digest the information ahead of the meeting. You might need to give a brief introduction to the material, but don't read it out word for word. If you're saying you're taking the paper as read, take it as read. You can then use the valuable time in the meeting to get people's input, feedback on the information, or input into the decision making. But don't just allow one person to raise some questions, then jump down a rabbit hole of dialogue with that individual. Instead, ask 2 or even 3 people to raise the issues on their mind. And as chair, you should start to gather these comments and questions into themes and take each of those themes turn by turn. So for example, after you've gone through the first 3 participants, you might say, right, we're going to focus on cost now. Does anyone else have any questions or comments on costs? Therefore, you're maximising the input from the participants. Whereas if you go round one by one, someone towards the end of that process might have some valuable input on a particular topic, but they feel it's already been covered and they don't want to bring the conversation back to that particular topic. It also allows you to be much more efficient, working through a particular theme until you're clear on the conclusion and then move forward to the next theme. Once you've exhausted the themes raised by the first 3 individuals, you can then move on. So has anyone else got any questions on any further topics they would like to raise? At the end of that discussion, it's critical for you as chair to summarise the discussion and be clear on the decision you're making and the actions or next steps that arise from that. It can be very tempting. You've got a difficult topic, you've got some different views coming in from different attendees to say, well, let's take this offline, or follow up some further analysis, or follow up some further questions. That can be necessary sometimes, but you never have all the information and all the analysis to make a clear decision. You have to try and use your judgment and being comfortable making decisions with partial data with the best information you have available at that time. Making a decision, even if it's not quite the right decision, is often far better than making no decision at all. If there's not a dedicated note taker for the meeting, then as chair you need to be capturing these points as you're going through, ideally on your laptop or tablet. That makes it really easy to convert your notes into a follow-up note or email that you can send out to all the participants to confirm the decision taken and the actions and next steps that have arisen. That way you're maximising the chance of follow-through. If the meeting doesn't result in follow-through, it's been an absolute waste of time. If you're the chair of the meeting, particularly if you're the decision maker in a decision-making meeting, speak last. Let the other participants give their views and input first. As the most senior individual, your views can shape the views of others. If you've spoken first and said it's a great idea, other people in the room are far less likely to contradict you. You've invited them to the meeting for a purpose, to get their input, to get their views. So speak last, listen first, and allow you to get yourself the benefit of the advisors and the other people in the room that can help you shape that decision. Coordination meetings are some of the most common meetings we have. A weekly team meeting, a daily stand-up, or our monthly all-hands meetings. But these meetings can also be the biggest time wasters because they happen so often and they can be allowed to drag on for too long. You're probably familiar with Parkinson's law, where the time taken for any particular activity expands to the time available for that activity to happen. So keep these meetings short, sharp, and focused. For most team meetings, you can manage them in half an hour. Make sure each participant only highlights the things that they're going to need input in from that week or period or month from you or other members of the team, because it is a coordination meeting. So you're looking to coordinate your resources, making sure you're working as a team and supporting each other. You don't often need an agenda for these meetings. It should be as simple as going around the table, allowing people to highlight the things on their mind. But it's still worth, as chair of those meetings, capturing any key actions or decisions that come out of those meetings and circulating them to the attendees after the meeting. Creative problem-solving meetings are slightly different. These meetings tend to be longer, normally a couple of hours or a half day, or even over a full day if you're having a team away day to focus on some really key strategic issues. You're making a significant investment in time of you and the people you're inviting to that meeting, so you can make sure you maximise the benefit of that investment. Ahead of the meeting, you need to make sure attendees are clear on the purpose and are prepared with the relevant information, pre-read, material that they can digest and make sure they're coming to that session fully prepped and ready to contribute. For really important problem-solving meetings, you might want to have pre-meets with key individuals to make sure they understand the material, understand the issue at hand, and understand how you want them to contribute to that meeting. These are also useful to get people's initial views, so you can make sure you're going into the meeting aligned on the key areas of conversation, and you're not surprised or blindsided by particular landmines or problems that come up that derail the meeting and stop you achieving the objective. If you need to participate fully in this creative problem-solving meeting, you might want to appoint a different facilitator for this meeting to allow you to be able to do that without having to worry about time management or bringing in different individuals. It's really difficult to maintain being a chair of a long meeting and participating fully. But if you are chairing or facilitating one of these meetings, because they are longer, you need to make sure you're actively managing the energy levels of the individuals. Make sure you're planning the agenda such that the key bits where you need people's maximum productivity is after a break, first thing in the morning, or maybe shortly after lunch. Leaving those sessions to the end of a day or end of a long particular subsection, you'll find people's energy levels are dipping. You can also manage people's energy levels by making them move around the room. Find opportunities to get people on their feet, walk over to whiteboards, use post-it notes to keep those energy levels up. In these longer meetings, you can sometimes find yourself being sidetracked by particular issues people are raising. Therefore, we've all seen it used. Use the car park methodology to capture that feedback, park it on a whiteboard or post-it note to make sure it's not lost, but then you can get back to the agenda that you want to manage. So if you're running these meetings, you need to be going into the meeting, clear on your objective, and making sure you're managing the meeting towards those objectives. And as you're making progress during the day towards those objectives, capture those decisions, capture those key actions. Make sure participants know that you're making progress. That helps to keep your energy levels up. But then it starts to give you a clear set of actions, decisions, and next steps that you can summarise at the end of the meeting. And then you can send this out to the participants after the meeting, so they have a record of the discussion, the key actions and decisions, and you can drive that follow-up. That's why that meeting was there in the first place. If you don't do it, it's been a waste of your time and others' time. That's what I've learned about how to have effective meetings. But I'd love to hear your tips. Leave them in the comments below on the things that you've learned and how to chair meetings more effectively. If you want to watch this video about having fewer meetings, click here, or check out this other video to clarify decision-making rights, which will also make those decision-making meetings far more effective.